In the photo, several men are shooting their guns at the feet of another man in an old saloon located in Wyoming. In this dangerous practice known as the bullet dance, the poor man tried to avoid being hit by the shots fired near his feet by jumping as quickly as possible. The dance was a brutal form of entertainment in some Wild West saloons. Could you make it out of this dance unharmed? In 1871, in New Mexico, Jimmy McKinn, an 11-year-old child, was taken by Apache warriors and remained with them for about a year. During this time, Jimmy learned their language, adopted their customs, and formed deep bonds with the tribe. When American soldiers rescued him, he resisted returning, wishing to stay with the Apaches, surprising his family and authorities, who did not expect such a strong bond between the boy and his captors. A sandstorm moves over the farmlands of Midland, Texas, in 1894. These storms were, and still are, a common phenomenon in the West, especially in areas of intensive cultivation where the soil is often exposed to wind. In the late 19th century, farmers faced great challenges in protecting their crops from the region's extreme weather conditions. The card game called faro was one of the favored pastimes in the Wild West. If you did not play, it was hard to be seen as a real cowboy. Like poker, faro involved luck and was a popular form of leisure, as we can see from the men in the photo. With easy-to-understand rules and a fast-paced dynamic, the game quickly spread, becoming one of the most played in saloons, attracting those seeking excitement and adventure in cards. At that time, any drink was not cheap, especially the famous Rotgut liquor, a low-quality drink known for its strong taste and unpleasant effects. To increase profits, bar owners often diluted higher-quality liquor with ingredients like ammonia and turpentine, creating cheaper but potentially dangerous mixtures. Would you dare to try such a drink? Fred W. Loring, a press correspondent, is depicted with his mule in Arizona in 1871. This photo was taken just 2 days before he was attacked and killed by Apache warriors. Loring was covering the tumultuous events involving conflicts between the Apaches and settlers in the Arizona region. Workers pose for a photo celebrating the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10, 1869, at Promontory Summit, Utah. This was the first railroad to connect the eastern and western United States, and took 6 years to build, employing about 20,000 workers, including 15,000 Chinese immigrants. These workers faced extreme challenges, such as blasting through the Sierra Nevada mountains, scorching heat in the Nevada desert, and attacks from native tribes. In Cripple Creek, Colorado, prostitutes and dancers were required to wear aprons over their short dresses to prevent their ankles from being exposed and offending the moral standards of the time. This curious detail shows how, even in a bustling town full of Wild West adventurers, social norms were still strict. In the photo, these girls and their companions seem to be enjoying themselves at Crapper Jack's, one of the most lively spots in town. Cowboys and saloon girls having fun together in a saloon. In the photo, we see cowboys accompanied by women who work at the saloon, enjoying drinks and other activities. Saloons were important places in the Wild West, offering entertainment, food, and drink for travelers and locals. These places often became the center of nightlife and social interactions of the time. Feeling like you would want to be in the middle of a lively party in a Wild West saloon? Imagine escaping from your abusive partner and becoming an outlaw of the Wild West. That is what Pearl Hart did. Known for her daring stagecoach robberies, she was a fearless woman who achieved celebrity status during her lifetime. Despite her fame as a thief, Pearl was not always involved in serious crimes. Coming from a wealthy and well-educated family, her life took an unexpected turn after suffering physical abuse from her husband. She managed to escape his clutches and moved to Phoenix, where she became a legendary figure. Ever thought about seeing the beginning of a new city under construction? In Anadarko, on August 8, 1901, the town was bustling with an auction underway in the stand in the background. People gathered to buy land and start building their homes and businesses. Bank buildings were quickly rising, and, nearby, the beginning of an inn could already be seen, offering a place for new residents and visitors to rest. Remember Bob Marley's song, Buffalo Soldier? Well, now you can better understand the meaning of the term. Buffalo Soldier was the name given by Native Americans to the black soldiers who served in the Army after the Civil War, during the Indian Wars. These men were known for their bravery and resilience, qualities the natives associated with buffalo, animals revered for their strength and endurance. The Oklahoma Land Run, known as the Land Run of 1889, took place at noon on April 22, 1889. Around 50,000 people gathered at the Oklahoma Territory border to claim parts of the 2 million acres of land that were opened for settlement. When the signal was given, participants raced on horseback, in wagons, and even on foot, in search of a piece of land to call their own. Can you imagine taking part in a race for a piece of land? It must have been quite an adventure. In the photo, the Rufus Buck Gang, whose 5 members were executed in Fort Smith, Arkansas, in July 1896. This mass execution is notable for being one of the largest ever recorded in the United States for crimes of sexual violence. The gang was responsible for a series of violent crimes, including sexual assaults and robberies, which led to a strong reaction from the authorities. In this bar, photographed in 1889 in California, you can see customers sitting in chairs made from bear hides. These unique chairs are the result of bartender Seth Kinman's passion for hunting. Kinman was a renowned hunter and claimed to have killed 800 grizzly bears during his lifetime. Can you imagine sitting in one of these chairs, knowing each carries the story of a hunt? It's a vivid reminder of a time when the American frontier was still wild and full of dangers. Kitty Wilkins, known as the Horse Queen of Idaho, was a notable horse trader for being the only American woman whose income depended solely on selling her horses. She had impressive success, selling 8,000 horses to a buyer who sent them to the British Army for use in the Boer War. Although she was one of the most famous women of the Old West, her story is less known today. A group of Apache prisoners rests beside a Southern Pacific train near the Nueces River in Texas. This 1886 photo captures the moment during the Apache Wars when members of the tribe were forcibly taken by soldiers to distant reservations. The Apaches, known for resisting colonization and defending their lands, faced long and arduous journeys, being separated from their homes and communities. The Dodge City Peace Commission, formed in June 1883, Dodge City was known as one of the most lawless towns in the Wild West, where brawls, gunfights, and disorder were frequent. To restore safety and order, notorious figures like Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson came together to create the Peace Commission. The commission brought together experienced men who worked together to control violence and enforce rules in the city. Billy the Kid, one of the most famous outlaws of the Wild West, was born as Henry McCarty in 1859 in the Irish slums of New York City. At a young age, he left the city in search of a new life and ended up venturing west. Billy the Kid quickly gained fame as an outlaw, involved in cattle rustling, robberies, and shootouts. His ability to escape the authorities and his boldness gave him a legendary reputation. Despite his short life, which ended at 21 when he was killed by Sheriff Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid left his mark on American history. Pat Garrett is remembered as the man who killed the famous outlaw Billy the Kid. As the sheriff of Lincoln County, New Mexico, Garrett stood out for his determination to capture Billy the Kid, one of the most infamous criminals of the Wild West. After an intense pursuit, Garrett located Billy the Kid and killed him on July 14, 1881, in Fort Sumner. The young outlaw's death brought fame to Garrett, but also involved him in controversies, as many saw Billy the Kid as a charismatic and almost heroic figure. Here is the famous William Buffalo Bill Cody on horseback, holding a rifle. In the background are the tents of his famous Wild West show. Buffalo Bill founded the Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, which brought the stories and culture of the American frontier to audiences in America and Europe. His show included recreations of battles, horse races, and shooting demonstrations, and featured characters like cowboys, Indians, and outlaws, many of whom were played by himself or his team members. Annie Oakley, with her flawless aim, fires a gun over her shoulder, using only a mirror to aim. Born Phoebe Ann Mosey, Annie became one of the most legendary sharpshooters of the West. At just 15 years old, she won her first shooting competition, beginning a career that would lead her to Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Alongside her husband, she impressed audiences across the country, securing her place in history as a true legend. Contrary to what it may seem, this large group of natives was not preparing for battle. In fact, they were lining up for the famous Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, one of the greatest entertainment successes of the time. Although it was not the first of its kind, the show was a pioneer in popularizing the format that combined historical dramatizations with live performances. The show quickly gained fame and became an international phenomenon, touring Europe and attracting large crowds. Employees gathered around a wagon that served as a ticket booth for the famous Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Around 1890, the show, which featured skilled horsemen, Native Americans in traditional costumes, and sharpshooters with impressive skills, captured the public's imagination and created a romantic portrayal of the Wild West. In the photo, Buck Taylor, the king of cowboys, wearing his Wild West showman attire. Taylor became known for his skills as a rider and his captivating stage presence. He was one of the stars of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, where he excelled in riding performances and roping skills. Buck Taylor helped shape the image of the cowboy in the popular imagination, combining frontier lifestyle with entertainment. Here is the cast of Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, made up of a diverse group of performers who helped recreate and dramatize life on the American frontier. The cast included skilled cowboys like Buck Taylor, sharpshooters like Annie Oakley, and even Native Americans like the famous Sioux chief, Sitting Bull. Each member played an important role in the performances, which ranged from gunfights and horse races to roping skills and trick-shooting demonstrations. James Butler Hickok, known as Wild Bill, was a legendary hero of the Wild West, famous for his diverse activities as a soldier, lawman, and gunslinger. With his exceptional firearm skills and courage, he participated in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Wild Bill was killed in Deadwood while playing poker. A man named Jack McCall entered the saloon and, without warning, shot Hickok in the back, killing him instantly. The hand of cards he was holding at the time of his death, 2 aces and 2 eights, all black, became known as the Dead Man's Hand. Jesse James, the famous outlaw of the Wild West, was not only a criminal, but also one of the most wanted men of his time. Born in 1847, he became known for robbing banks and trains, and for his ability to evade the authorities. James led the James Younger gang and became a legendary and feared figure. His crimes and his skill in avoiding capture made him one of the most wanted men in the United States in the late 19th century. A group of refugees after the Indian Massacre, which occurred in Minnesota in 1862. This group, considered mixed blood, was composed of people of European and Native descent, rescued by Dakota Indians during the conflict. The massacre, also known as the Dakota War, was a violent confrontation between the Dakota, Sioux people, and American settlers, motivated by tensions caused by hunger, broken treaty promises, and poor living conditions on the reservations. Olive Van Oatman was kidnapped in 1851 in what is now Arizona by an unknown Native American tribe. After the kidnapping, she was sold to the Mojave tribe, who kept her for 5 years and, following their traditions, tattooed her face with blue pigment. After being released, Olive returned to white society, where her story drew much attention. She became a public figure and shared her experiences in the book Life Among the Indians, published in 1857. Rose Dunn, known as the Rose of Cimarron, was a young woman of just 15 years who became famous for her association with the Doolin-Dalton Gang, a group of bank and train robbers active in the 1890s. She was guilty only of enjoying the company of outlaws and having a close relationship with one of the gang members. It is said that during a shootout between the gang and law enforcement, Rose ran through crossfire to deliver weapons and ammunition to the outlaws. This brave act helped build her reputation as a fearless young woman loyal to those she loved. Another notable woman is Calamity Jane, pictured here with a rifle during her time as a scout for General Crook. Born Martha Canary, she became an iconic figure of the Wild West, known for her skills as a scout and her unconventional lifestyle. Calamity Jane was famous for wearing men's clothes and her proficiency with weapons, which was crucial in her missions. She gained notoriety for her adventures and stories, becoming one of the most fearless women on the frontier. Geronimo, leader of the Apaches, guided his tribe with courage and determination during intense conflicts with the government and settlers. Known for his guerrilla tactics and fierce resistance, Geronimo fought to protect Apache lands and culture against U.S. expansion. His struggle continued until his final surrender in 1886, when he and his followers surrendered after several battles and pursuits. Cowboys taking a bath after a long cattle drive, a common practice after months on the trail. The cattle drives usually lasted about 3 months, crossing great distances to take the animals to the markets. Upon reaching their destination, before entering town to celebrate, they would bathe in rivers or water tanks, taking the opportunity to refresh and clean themselves. Kit Carson, known as the Great Frontiersman, was a fur trader, explorer, mountain man, expedition guide, and Indian agent. His life was full of adventures in the West, where he served as a guide for the famous explorer John Fremont on his expeditions, and also helped mediate relations between settlers and native tribes. He became a living legend for his courage in dangerous situations, and his ability to live in harmony with the wild nature of the time. Here we see the famous Texas Rangers, showcasing their weapons and highlighting their role as border guardians. The force was unofficially created by Stephen Austin in 1823 and officially organized in 1835. Since then, the Rangers have earned a historical reputation for chasing fugitives, fighting invasions, and maintaining order along the borders. Today, the Texas Rangers still exist as an elite unit within the Texas Department of Public Safety. Did you know that the Texas Rangers started as an informal militia? The gold rush led to the mass displacement of native peoples from California, which resulted in increased investment in agricultural projects in the state. With the decreased presence of natives in the region, California began attracting many Chinese immigrants who began working in the fields. This photo, taken in 1898, shows 4 Chinese field workers. Like many others, they helped transform California into a major agricultural production center. Belle Starr, the infamous Queen of Bandits of the Wild West, was captured in Fort Smith, Arkansas, in 1886. Known for her life of crime, which included horse theft, robberies, and involvement with other outlaws, Belle openly defied the authorities and became a legendary figure of the time. Next to her in the photo is Deputy Marshal Benjamin Tyner Hughes, the man on horseback who finally managed to arrest her after several failed attempts. The main street of the western settlement of Tonopah, Nevada, was always bustling. In the photo, you see covered wagons bringing goods to local trading posts. These items were used for sale or trade, playing a crucial role in the settlement's economy and daily life. During the Silver Rush, Tonopah quickly developed and became a vibrant center of activity, a group of prospectors heading out with a horse in search of their riches. The photo was taken in 1867, during the Gold Rush, when thousands of people ventured west in search of gold and other treasures, believing they could change their lives. Equipped with shovels, pans, and other mining tools, these men were ready to face the challenges of the terrain and hard work in the hope of finding gold. Judge Roy Bean's courthouse, which also functioned as a saloon in Langtry, Texas in 1900, is a unique example of life in the Wild West. Roy Bean, known as the Law West of the Pecos, mixed his judicial duties with running his bar, and became famous for his decisions, often based more on his own rules than formal law. Imagine walking into this saloon, not knowing if you would find a judge or just a bartender ready to serve a drink, or perhaps both at the same time. Chief Joseph, leader of the Nez Perce, won the admiration of the American public and the nickname Red Napoleon after leading about 700 men, women, and children in an impressive 170-mile fighting retreat in 1877. The retreat began when the Nez Perce were forced to abandon their ancestral lands in Oregon and attempted to escape to Canada, seeking to avoid capture and confinement in reservations. Their final surrender, just 40 miles from the Canadian border, marked the end of one of the most remarkable retreats in American history. Clay Allison, a cattle rancher and former Confederate soldier, was one of the most dangerous and unpredictable figures of his time. Known for his explosive temper, Allison was involved in numerous gun and knife fights, both with civilians and the law. His reputation for recklessness was so great that on one occasion he accidentally shot himself in the foot. Despite his violent nature and his reputation as a feared gunslinger, he followed his own moral code, reflected in the inscription on his tombstone. He never killed a man that did not need killing. The woman in the photo came in search of gold, along with her husband. During the gold rush, many women took the opportunity to start a new life, actively contributing to mining, opening businesses like saloons and boarding houses, or offering essential services in predominantly male areas. A family poses in front of their home in New Mexico in 1895. In the photo, you can see the Native American servant holding and caring for a child. After colonization and the Indian Wars, many natives lost their lands and were forced to seek work in difficult conditions, often with no other option to survive. Native women, like the one in the photo, performed heavy domestic tasks, cared for children, and helped with various daily activities, often receiving little or no pay. In the photo, we see the U.S. deputy marshals alongside the clerical force in Perry, Oklahoma, in 1893. At the time, deputy marshals played a vital role in territories like Oklahoma, which were rapidly developing after the land openings. Perry, a newly established town, faced many challenges, and the presence of the marshals helped maintain peace and security among the settlers who arrived in large numbers. Here is cowboy Nat Love, around 1900. Nat Love was one of the most famous African-American cowboys of the Wild West. Born into slavery in 1854 in Tennessee, he gained freedom after the Civil War and ventured west in search of a different life. Love quickly stood out as a talented cowboy, participating in rodeo competitions, where he earned the nickname Deadwood Dick after winning a major rodeo in Deadwood in 1876. The town of Perry, Oklahoma, received running water for the first time in 1893. Founded a few months earlier, the town was still establishing itself as a new frontier community. The water tower being erected in the photo represents an important milestone for the area's initial infrastructure. In this photo, we see the first house built in what would become Dodge City, Kansas, in August 1872. Dodge City gained fame for its bustling urban life, its saloons, and its legendary stories. The construction of this first house not only marked the beginning of the area's settlement, but also started Dodge City's transformation into one of the most iconic centers of the West. The Cheyenne natives, after attempting to escape from their reservation, are held prisoners in Kansas in 1879. After a desperate attempt to return to their ancestral lands, a group of Cheyenne was recaptured. During the capture, 27 men, women, and children were killed in the Sapa Creek Massacre. In the photo, we see some of the Cheyenne prisoners sitting next to a white man, moments after being forced to surrender. Workers leaving the mine shaft in Virginia City, Nevada, in 1888. At that time, Virginia City was one of the most important centers of the gold and silver rush, with the Comstock Lode Mine, discovered in 1859, being one of the richest in the American West. The city grew rapidly but eventually declined as the mineral reserves were depleted. Apaches delivering hay to American settlers in Arizona in 1893. In the scene, members of the Apache tribe are helping to provide animal feed and cultivate areas newly established by settlers. Despite the tensions and challenges of the time, settlers and Apaches worked together to face the new realities of life in the territory. Apache spirits, dancers with somewhat bizarre hoods and masks, participate in a ritual to invoke spirits. The group included members of various native tribes from the Southwest, who believed they could summon spirits from the underworld. Spiritual rituals were an important part of Apache and other tribes' cultures and traditions, involving dances and ceremonies to connect participants with the spiritual world and ensure the community's protection and well-being. The girls in the photo are known as rodeo cowgirls or rodeo queens. These women defied the norms of their time by competing in riding, shooting, and other skills traditionally dominated by men. One of the most famous cowgirls was Annie Oakley, mentioned earlier. These pioneers helped pave the way for future generations of cowgirls, breaking down barriers and showing that the spirit of the American West was also theirs. The OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona, after a fire in 1882. This location is famous for the shootout on October 26, 1881, involving the Earp brothers and Outlaws Clanton and McLaury. The shootout is one of the most well-known events of the Wild West and marked the city's history. The fire that destroyed the OK Corral was caused by an electrical short circuit and damaged much of the building and surroundings, affecting the local community and the preservation of the historic site. The last Deadwood coach, a Wild West stagecoach, made its final journey around 1890. This vehicle was essential in connecting Deadwood, South Dakota, to other cities during the Black Hills Gold Rush. The retirement of the Deadwood coach marked the transition to new means of transportation, such as railroads, which began to replace stagecoaches. Here we see men working to lay tracks for a new railroad in Arizona in 1898. The construction of the tracks brought great changes, allowing people and goods to move more quickly and helping to integrate the West with the rest of the country. This advance in the railroad was an important step in the modernization and development of the West at the end of the 19th century. This is a photograph of the Dakota Territory, which today corresponds to the states of North Dakota and South Dakota. In it, we see about 200 men under the command of General George Armstrong Custer, crossing the vast plains of the territory. In the 1870s, Custer and his troops conducted several expeditions to explore the region and maintain a military presence. Members of the Shoshone tribe dance on a Native American reservation in Fort Washakie, Wyoming, in 1892. while soldiers watch. At that time, native dances and ceremonies were often viewed with suspicion by authorities, who considered them a possible sign of resistance. Even so, the Shoshone and other tribes continued to perform their dances, reaffirming their culture and strengthening their community bonds. This is a panoramic view of the Lakota camp near the Pine Ridge Reservation in 1891. The site holds great historical significance, as it was here, 1 year earlier, that the Wounded Knee Massacre occurred on December 29, 1890. On that tragic day, around 300 Lakota men, women, and children were killed by U.S. Army soldiers, marking one of the last major conflicts between Native Americans and the government. In the Buffalo Hide Yard in Dodge City, Kansas, in 1878, we see an impressive collection of 40,000 buffalo hides. This yard was an important center for the hide industry, where buffalo were processed and their hides prepared for sale. Dodge City, known as a supply point and trading center during the westward expansion, played a crucial role in the buffalo hide industry. The Hot Springs Bathhouse, photographed around 1890, located in Hot Springs, Arkansas. This was the largest immersion bathhouse in the United States at the time. The Hot Springs Bathhouse was famous for its thermal waters, which attracted many people seeking relaxation and treatment. The graves of Tom McLaury, Frank McLaury, and Billy Clanton are a landmark of the famous shootout at the OK Corral in 1881. On October 26, 1881, the McLaurys and Clanton faced off with Sheriffs Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday in a gunfight that lasted only 30 seconds, but became legendary. It is amazing how such a brief moment can define stories and create legends that are still remembered today. A view of Ellis Island in New York Bay, managed by the Immigration Service. Between 1892 and 1954, over 20 million immigrants passed through this island in search of a new life in America. People from different backgrounds contributed to the development of the American West by working on railroad construction, mining, agriculture, and establishing new towns and communities. In the photo, we see a cowboy on his horse at the edge of a cliff in Monument Valley. This beautiful setting, known for its immense rock formations and stunning landscapes, is one of the most iconic locations in the American West. Monument Valley became a popular site for classic Hollywood films depicting the Old West. One of the most famous movies to use this landscape is The Searchers from 1956, starring John Wayne. Here we explore an unusual tradition of the Old West around the year 1900. Women would kneel before their husbands, asking for forgiveness for various mistakes and inconveniences caused throughout the year. This practice reflects the social and gender norms of the time, where women often assumed a submissive role within family dynamics. In the photo, we see two prostitutes from Alaska during the gold rush. The women who went to places like Dawson City or Ketchikan faced extremely dangerous journeys to reach Alaska, often spending months on difficult crossings. Many of them sought new opportunities amid the mining boom, where they could make a living in saloons and entertainment houses that sprang up in prosperous towns.